This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN Network. And joining me right now is Brent Charleton. He is the president and CEO of EnWave Corporation. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is ENW on the TSX Venture. Brent, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thanks so much. You as well.
So I wanted to start off first. How's everyone holding up? Everyone's safe and sound?
Yeah, we've been fortunate enough not to have been directly impacted by COVID on a personal level. All of our employees have remained in good health, both at our parent company in Canada and at our subsidiary manufacturing company down in Washington State.
That's great to hear. So, we had you on previously. Actually, it's been about 2 years since our last interview. But before we get into some of the updates, really quick, for those who may not have seen that interview or even heard of EnWave before, let's get a very quick overview and history of the company, and then we'll go from
there. Okay. I always, in recent times, described EnWave Corporation as the 20-year overnight success story. This is a company that spawned out of a local university here on the west coast of Canada with a portfolio of patents that protected a unique vacuum microwave dehydration technology. And since its infancy, it's now grown into a true commercial entity in that we have deployed this technology in over 16 countries globally to over 35 companies through a licensing royalty business model, being that our proprietary platform offers a significant value proposition to both food manufacturers, cannabis manufacturers, and we still have participation ongoing in the pharmaceutical space. We tend to focus primarily in the fruit and vegetable and the dairy industries. It's where we've seen the most commercial success. And I would have to pay homage to our subsidiary company, NutraDried, which we started in 2013 to de-risk the prospective adoption of our technology. And thankfully, that business unit has now grown from a few $100,000 in revenue to about 29 million in revenue last fiscal year. That's Canadian dollars. I always speak to Canadian dollars in this interview, just to clarify, and continues to have a pretty bright upside. So, and that success is now leveraged into multiple new licenses to different dairy companies, again, on a global basis.
And I also have to say, for those who don't know, it's your technology that helps make the moon cheese product that we see, right?
Okay. Yeah, so NutraDried sells moon cheese exclusively, multiple SKUs, flavor profiles, and that's done extremely well in Whole Foods, Costco, and a number of other premier retail distribution channels.
I always see it in Starbucks down here. So
and Starbucks, of course, yeah. We're very thankful that the CEO of Starbucks recently announced their intention to open up their brick and mortar locations relatively soon, because that'll certainly help with sales there.
Absolutely. So, like I said very briefly ago, that we last had you on about 2 years ago. So rather than, we're not going to go through every main highlight of the last 2 years, but, what were some of the highlights in the last 12 months?
Well, I'd say in fiscal 2019, it was by far our best year commercially. We eclipsed the 40 million top line mark, and in doing so, sold the most radiant energy vacuum. That's what we refer to our vacuum microwave equipment as. Most machines in history of the company during that year. And so we're still in the process of delivering several of those units and recognizing that revenue through fiscal 2020. So that was really sort of an inflection point, a turning point for us in terms of companies accepting the viability of the technology, and for us gaining more operating history with several firms, which again lends itself to improved confidence in our tech.
Got it. So can you tell us a little bit more about how the company performed in the first quarter this year?
Q1 fiscal 2020 was solid in the context of our historical performances. It actually was an improvement of about 800,000 on the top line year over year for Q1. However, it was a greater loss accumulated in Q1, and that was primarily to do with more investment being put forth into our subsidiary company, NutraDried, and that was through additional hires on the sales and marketing, basically investing for growth. And that's the stage of evolution that the company is in at the moment.
Got it. And I have to ask, how has the company been affected by the global pandemic? I mean, it sounds like, especially with the question I'm about to talk about, you're you're really focused on licensing deals and not producing too much in-house, so you can kind of keep operations going and really virtually.
Well, thankfully, both companies, the manufacturing of the machinery and the manufacturing of moon cheese, were not shut down during the various rules and regulations that were undertaken by the different government entities. And moving forward here, we'll be able to complete remote installations for our smaller units. We actually just completed our first experience with that with an Icelandic partner. So we're feeling confident that we can operate business as usual moving through this pandemic as things come back to some form of normalcy. And so really, I think it was more so a slowdown in decision-making, which negatively affected us from some of our prospective licensees, in that they pushed off some CapEx decisions till later hopefully this calendar year, assuming business opens up on a macroeconomic level internationally, but not an abandonment of the projects. So that brings me confidence in that, as we collectively work through this, we should rebound nicely through the latter half of fiscal 2020.
Got it. And, this kind of brings me to my next topic, is on the licensing, because the first 5.5 months of the year, have been really quite busy for you guys on the licensing front. For instance, just yesterday, the company signed an agreement with a leading Eastern European fruit and vegetable company. So can we provide a little bit more context about, the nature of some of these deals and what they mean for the company?
Sure. And I think, the fact that we are continuing to close deals during the heart of the pandemic says something about, again, the value proposition that our technology can bring to food manufacturers. And so to provide more context to those relationships, they will take smaller scale units of ours, typically valued at around $200,000 Canadian or so, and be producing product for commercial test purposes. And assuming that the anticipated business case can be confirmed in terms of pricing and uptake by their customers, and that's likely to induce them to purchase larger scale equipment, which ranges in price from about 1.5 to 2.5 million per unit. And of course, each of those machines that are deployed are generating royalties tied to the commercial success of their applications, typically between 3 and 5% of wholesale revenue, or in certain cases, a fee per kilogram or pound sold. So again, I'm thrilled that our team has collectively been able to execute and get more deals done during these challenging times.
Got it. So just to clarify real quick, the model around some of these, especially on some of the commercial tests, is that you provide your equipment to produce some product for them. They see if there is a market for some of the product that they want to produce, and then you then provide the machines for them, or you just produce all the product yourselves and then provide it for them. How does that work?
So the parent company, EnWave, we actually sell the machinery cost plus. So we make, call it a modest margin on the sale of the equipment, and then we collect the carried interest in the form of the royalty tied to the licensed partners' commercial success. The subsidiary company, NutraDried, which we started as a proof of concept, we make money on the sales of moon cheese. And also that subsidiary does remit a royalty payment back to EnWave. Purposes of that is, if we ever decide to sell that business unit, the acquirer will still have that obligation to continue paying that royalty interest back to the parent company, EnWave.
And I also have to ask, because I have a good friend down here who is working on producing, dehydrated snacks, especially with, he's a big keto guy. And the keto trend is I think it's kind of here to stay. I mean, I've even kind of experimented a little bit here and there, and so have you guys seen that as a tailwind and some of the reasons for growth for the company?
We definitely have keto, alternative protein applications. Definitely, that is not a flash in the pan. I believe those eating habits are here to stay, and the amount of interest that we've garnered from companies to develop applications and diversify their portfolio from more traditional, pure dairy or pure meat protein has increased significantly. In fact, recently we had a great conversation conducted between our personnel and Seth Goldman, who's the executive chairman of Beyond Meat, to discuss just this topic. We actually published a video on that 2 weeks ago if anybody's of interest, to follow up on our website.
Got it. So then from what you can tell us, what are your goals for the company for the rest of 2020?
Well, goals are, I think we have to break them out between EnWave parent and the subsidiary NutraDried. And so for NutraDried, with the significant investment in sales and marketing personnel and mandates, we need to get that company back to sustained profitability in the very near term. So that's the goal for NutraDried throughout the rest of the year. For EnWave, given that we are still working through obviously some limitations with international travel, it's getting additional licenses on board. And right now we had 6 licenses signed to date this fiscal year. We'd like to get to 10 or 12. That is the goal for our sales team right now, being almost halfway through. And so I think that's reasonable, it's feasible. And then of course, once we can travel internationally, is closing the large scale purchase orders that we've targeted that have been put on pause. So I can't say profitability with confidence yet until I understand how long these international travel restrictions will continue.
So with that, where can my audience go and find more information about EnWave and to follow along on the progress?
My first recommendation would be to visit our website, which is www.enwave.net. And then also our social channels are consistently putting out quite interesting content that relates directly to our business, but more so to the broader trends that we're seeing in food manufacturing on a global basis.
Perfect. Well, with that, Brent, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Good luck, stay safe, and I look forward to the next update.
Thank you, sir.